So good morning. This is our second session of this conference. The title, as you know, is Sustainability Strategies and Models of Governance for Local Commons with Global Values. Today, the speakers will be more on the side of social science and ecology. The topic that will be dealt with mainly today, for those of you who were here yesterday, you have certainly realized that the topic was touched even yesterday, because it is very difficult in a conference like this to separate the topics. On the other hand, the target is precisely to put together different disciplinary visions. So yesterday there have been many points concerning topics that will come certainly back today in the presentation of this morning and even on the afternoon. One thing that I found very interesting yesterday, very important, was the effort that our speakers have done to present us with different experiences in different parts of the world of cities which were concerned with the sustainability issue, with the topics of being local goods with a global value. And this was very useful because, on the other hand, it is important for us here in Venice because we often tend to look at the problems in a sort of isolated way. We tend to solve them by ourselves. It is important that the Venetian community participate in the solutions of the problem, but the opportunity to refer to other experiences is crucial if you want to do something for the future of the city. For example, yesterday I referred to the presentation of Bonnie Burnham, who introduced the topic of tourism, which is a very heated topic here in Venice. But not a new topic, because Venice has always, has been dealing with the problem of tourists since 1 century and even more. If you remember the famous, the well-known novel of Thomas Mann, that in Venice, you will realize that, the writer or the musician in the film version of Luchino Visconti was a tourist. Not a tourist, a commuter, like the tourist of today. A very wealthy person who was guested in the Hotel de Bain in Lido. But Venice at that period was in a terrible shape. The manager of the hotel invited the tourists, when the plague burst in Venice, to leave the hotel, to leave the city. And Luchino Visconti, in his beautiful movie, represented in a fantastic way the degradation, the decaying of the city. And it was interesting that precisely in that period, precisely to react to this situation of decay, the local political class of that time undertook completely a new strategy for the city. Yesterday, some of your intervention have asked for making some step forward to take the situation as an opportunity. And what happens? We can discuss what happens. We can disagree on what happened. But what happened is that the leading class, among them also the founder of this Fondazione, Vittorio Cini, they took the line of giving Venice the direction of becoming a city connected strictly with the industrial development. And then the Marghera was founded in the early 20th century. A municipality of Venice was created, including not only the historical center, but the mainland part. the industrial model developed, and then when we arrived in the middle of the 20th century, the model was under serious attack, and now is clearly a model in crisis. So what happened historically is an example of a city which has reacted to a situation of degradation and to a situation in which tourism, different from today, was linked to this situation of degradation. Today, the situation is completely different. What emerged yesterday, both from the presentations and from the discussion, was that tourism is something that must be accepted. It must be accepted, and I don't remember if it were you that you introduced the tendencies of tourism. The only economic activity which is developing today at the world level without reference to crisis, recession. You can imagine that 2.5 billion people, if you just include China and India, most of them will like to visit Venice. So this is something that will happen. There is no way of stopping this. There's a way of regulating this. And the presentation you have given us yesterday and the suggestion you and others have given us yesterday are very important. What I learned from the discussion of yesterday is that even we cannot address tourism and also the cruise ship problem by isolating them from the context. We have to learn to deal within a strategy of rebuilding. I am an economist, first of all, from the point of view, rebuilding an economic base for the city, a differentiated economic base for the city. And yesterday we have given a lot of hints in this direction from the Senate, very interesting presentation on how to recover artisan and craftsmen type of work, relating them, for example, to the opportunities of digital economy, creativity, and very important, build on young generation. You insisted a lot on this point. Venice has its own specificity on all these topics. For example, somebody yesterday, I think, where you Bonnie, you mentioned, I don't remember if it were you, the importance of a university center. Venice has 2 universities. But the history was that the Republic of Venice in the 15th century decided that the University of the Republic of Venice should be in Padua, not in Venice. And in fact, the universities of Venice are very recent. Foscari is 1868, and architecture is 1925. The point is, are we able to build up a network of universities to support what you clearly indicated yesterday as a necessary mean for building a human capital made up by young people, and to create the conditions for them to live here in Venice and to make Venice a lively city. So we have, my impression, my opinion is that from the debate of yesterday we got a number of hints, and these hints must be developed today, this morning and this afternoon. Who is going to help us in developing these hints this morning? First of all, there will be a change of order. Simon Levin will talk as the last one, because Simon Levin couldn't come here because he just is having, in these days, a surgical operation on his knee, and he couldn't move from Princeton, but he kindly accepted to speak, and there will be a Skype connection, but not now at 10 o'clock, because it is 4 o'clock in the morning at Princeton, so he was very kind to talk at 5:30, so we'll be connected, and we will be here with us until the end of the session. So there is this slight change of order. First will be Professor Yves Mény, then Professor Charles Perrings, and then Professor Simon Levin. Let me say a few words on the speakers. Professor Mény is is president He has a long relation with Italy because he is now president of Scuola Superiore di Sant'Anna in Pisa. He's a political scientist. He was formerly the president of the European Institute in Florence, which is a very important institution here, not only in Italy, for Europe, but for Italy is very important. He was formerly professor of political science at the Institut Politique in Paris, and before, I think, in other Paris University. And his topic is political science. He wrote, in my opinion, some important books, also because they have been translated in Italian. The Democracy, on Democracy, Representation, Populism. So he's the person who is the right person to speak us today mainly on governance. Then there will be Charles Perrings. Charles is a professor of environmental economics at Arizona State University, but formerly he was professor of economics and environmental economics at York University. He was also, I would say, one of the founders of what we can call the movement of ecological economics. I remember when I started to deal with this topic of environmental economics, his book, published in 1987, if I remember, on environment and economy, was one of the leading book for this discipline of ecological economics, which developed during the years, and Charles was also president of the International Society for International Economics. He was also the editor of an important journal of the Cambridge University Press, whose title is Environment and Development Economics. And he wrote many books. The most recent is one on biodiversity, our common heritage, biodiversity, ecosystem, services, and human well-being. So he knows Venice because he was many times in Venice. And he will give us this vision from the point of view of an environmental economist or ecological economist. We now can use both terms. Simon Levin is James McDonnell Distinguished Professor of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology in Princeton. But Simon Levin is not an ecologist. He's a mixture between an ecologist and now an economist, because most of his most recent contributions are written together with economists. Also, you have written something with Simon. And you will realize this when you will see the slides. He's going to present it later. So the way in which his scientific approach was linked to economics was mainly through precisely the problem of public goods and common natural resources. And so we have these three colleagues that this morning will introduce our discussion. We will use the same format that we used yesterday. So after their presentation, starting with Yves, there will be a reaction by the other members of this round table, and then a reaction by the speakers. And of course, at 11:30, we will connect with Simon Levy. So, Yves, please.